Agenda. You are.
All right. Hey, everyone, welcome to our regular school committee on September 8th. If everyone could rise for the pledge of allegiance. Please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, please. Second. All in favor by way of roll call?
Take something out of that.
Sure.
I just asked about, what is this? 2.1, no, I'm sorry.
Which one is it? Is it the letter?
No, no, just the
Here.
the enrollment. Could have swore I saw it on your agenda
No,
is
it is.
different. Your
Yeah, I
agenda is
know.
different.
It is. I printed out the big one. It was. It's here, right here, 2.7.
Sorry, 2.7.
Oh, I see. It's in a funny place on this. Andrew. You want to pull it out and discuss it now? Or
I just wanted-
separately?
You can discuss it now if you'd like. That's
Okay.
fine. I'm just asking where we stand as of today, that's all.
215, I believe. I went into Aspen.
It's 209, 210. There's a couple of students that we're still waiting that we know we need to remove because of various requests. So literally as of today, it was 209, 209.
Does that include homeschooling or does that not include homeschooling? The homeschooling is something completely different, right, from the enrollment?
It doesn't fold in homeschool numbers.
So do we have a number on that or no?
For what we had 10 students. Hold on, let me look. I wrote this down. We had 9 students who returned from homeschooling last year to in-person this year. And then there's 4 going out that it looks to me like will be approved for homeschooling for the coming year. So that's a gain of 5 kids coming back, which I think is a positive thing.
So we'd have 209 in school and then 4 at homeschool, if I understand you correctly.
And there might be other people on the homeschool agenda because we look at the homeschool K to 12, but people that were here last year that are continuing in the distance modality, it would be the 4.
Okay, we'll wait for the next, see how everything pans out next month. Okay.
So we have a motion and a second. And then we will vote by roll call.
Liaison,
Aye.
Travis Audi,
Aye.
It has.
Scott,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Please spotlight on excellence.
On the reopening?
Yes.
It was a great opening.
Oh, my goodness, it was so good.
Yeah, it was very nice, pretty smooth. I haven't, only thing since, I think this is the first time I've been in a school committee meeting, like on opening day of school, where you haven't had a couple of days to work out some of the bugs. And it's things that always happen. Every school I've ever been in, you work out busing situations the first week or 2 of school. Passing times for lunches and things like that. It takes a couple of days to get people's routines down again. So there are some things that we can improve upon, but they're very minor routine things. I think everybody was
Yeah.
to be back and lots of happy kids and lots of good feedback from both parents and teachers.
Excellent.
It was a great day, if I may.
Sure.
Linda Borg was here today. She is the education reporter for the Providence Journal. So she was on site with the photographer, and our 8th graders were more than happy to be interviewed, and our teachers went over some of their hands-on projects today the kids were doing outside on the front lawn.
It's actually live. The article is live now.
Is it really? Oh, gosh, she's quick. We did test today for the first time the school year, Binax now testing. And I believe over 130 people participated, which is not bad.
Yeah, 93 students and 33 adults.
Oh, there we go.
126 total.
And not a positive case, a lot of allergies and so forth, but no positive Binax now tests. So yeah, it was, I'll invite maybe the lead teacher, if that is okay with the chair, to maybe chime in about opening day.
First day. You know, you kind of walk in that door and you're not quite sure, what little snags might come up. But I can tell you that all the parents and the teachers, the support of the administration really did make it a great first day opening. It was a little bit more settled.
Subdued.
In a couple of years.
Yeah.
The idea that the masks are on and whatever else, like they already knew the expectation, students, but that flow of traffic and the buses. Our first student did a great job today. They had all the lists of all the kids and they were making sure all the placements so we could track, so on and so forth. Chartwells did a great job.
Yes.
Lunches. And a lot of our faculty and staff rose to the occasion and where they needed to be and make sure, the kids, safety of the kids, not only in their classrooms, but in the hallways and the outside of the building. But overall, I was very, very pleased. I have a laundry list of things to work on. That's my job, so that's what I do.
And I did talk to Mr. Nicole in the audience, and Edith had a great first day in kindergarten and was very excited that she had the computer.
Awesome.
Excellent. That sets the stage for the next 13 years.
Terrific. Number 4, superintendent's report.
I think we're going to open with HR, and I'm going to hand that off to our very capable HR coordinator, Carolyn Sedgwick.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, Chair. In addition to welcoming our wonderful staff back after what I hope was a great summer for everybody, we've had some recent staff additions. Grace Vindry is our technology teacher. She's here 2 days a week. And Amy Lotz is helping us out with Spanish right now, and she is here 3 days a week. Some open positions that we're hoping to fill internally include the International Baccalaureate IB coordinator, the math curriculum coach coordinator, the science curriculum coach coordinator. And we're also anticipating a fall sports season. And we're looking for a soccer and cross-country coach.
Soccer and what?
Cross-country. So school has started. Anyone interested in being an on-call daily substitute teacher, teacher's assistant, or custodian, just call the main office and you'll be passed through to the HR department. And finally, for those substitutes of ours who have been here in the past but have not been here in 12 or more months, we'll need those individuals to update their background check. And that's something that we can help with in the main office. So if you're out there and you're thinking, I'd love to get back in the game, we will need to update those background checks if it's been more than 12 months. And any questions, call the main office, ask for me, and we'll get you taken care of.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Superintendent, would you like to take the capital improvement plan?
Formerly known as stage 1 and stage 2 submittals. We just learned that. Absolutely. We just completed our first formal building committee meeting, and it is an extension of our operations team, which was formed a year ago to plan for reopening after the pandemic-related shutdown, March 20th, 2020. We'll never forget that day. And So we had a very productive meeting. And let me just give some members of the audience at home and also here a bit of a background. We received a $50,000 grant from the School Building Authority to hire an architectural, an engineering firm to complete a stage 1 needs assessment of our facility and move into a stage 2, which is a 5-year extending into a 10-year capital improvement plan. After consulting with the master price agreement, thank goodness for that in Rhode Island, and sending invitations to several firms, there were 2 respondents. It is a pretty small job, so I understand why only 2 firms responded. Most districts have $250,000 in their grant coffers for that. We have 50,000. Studio Jade was selected. I did my research, reached out to Coventry and Newport and Portsmouth and others who have used them, and they received effusive praise. And so there was an initial meeting, and John McNamee and Carolyn attended. I met with them separately for at least an hour or so in the building, after which they spent about 4 or 5 hours with Chris Osborne. Phil Conti is the CEO and also the principal architect. He brings with him each time. He was also on campus today. And last week he brought an interior decorator with him, a mechanical engineer, as well as an educational consultant, a former administrator, former superintendent. And so they met last week with a pretty large group of stakeholders, teachers and staff members, and asked the stakeholders to sort of dream big. Tell me, Phil said, Mr. Conti said, tell me what you would envision for this building in the 21st century, above and beyond the great enhancements that were realized in the 2012-2013 renovation. And boy, were they forthcoming. And tonight we got to look at the plan that Mr. Conti and his team fleshed out based on the feedback of this staff. All of you who were there last week, I'm sure will concur. He was so respectful of your feedback, of your vision, of your criticisms, and all of some of the spaces and systems, and also your imaginative solutions. And I don't think I've ever seen, and I've sat in other building committees, a presentation quite like the one we saw tonight that truly came from stakeholders, 100%. He even used our lingo, the courtyard to nowhere. And how he remembered that without notes is beyond me, but he did quite a good job. And so tomorrow night, he will present at Town Council. I will be there with him in person, and other members of the committee might be available via Zoom. And he will do the same presentation with the Town Council. It's sort of a preemptive ploy, basically, to get community buy-in, obviously, because it is the town that has to come up with the funds. There was the promise of reimbursement, of course, a minimum of 35% of anything that we do over the 5 and 10 years. But getting buy-in, showing the next iteration of this amazing facility that we forget is not just a school. It is a town building. It is the town polling place. It is the town meeting place for town meeting. It is the only structure equipped to manage that. It is the emergency shelter with its generator and kitchen and all of the systems in place to be designated as such. And no matter how big or small our student or faculty body are, we still have the most valuable asset in the town, that is the town's children, and this beautiful facility that houses them as they get a world-class education. So that's where we are. We're dreaming big. Mr. Rocha was at the meeting from about 6 to 6:45. Had some great feedback about the plan. And that's all it is at this point. It is a concept, it's conceptual. It will likely change many, many times based on stakeholder feedback. But one thing is clear, there are areas that do need immediate attention within the next 1 to 5 years or so. And if you look at the presentation, he definitely has wonderful graphical content there that illustrates that. So I'm very happy with Studio Jade. I'm even happier with the presentation. And because it's not your usual architectural firm, engineering firm modeling. It really is a living document that he was changing while we were sitting here using technology. So it's an exciting time. The building constantly needs maintenance and upkeep, and education constantly changes and needs change. And he captured all of immediate and future needs. So that's where we are. Any questions, concerns, comments, or feedback?
I can, it
Yeah,
sounds
sure.
great. It sounds very exciting.
Really is.
So in terms of the plan, so we go to town council for their feedback,
Yep.
stakeholders. And then what's the next step?
He will submit the first stage 1 of the plan to the Department of Education on the 15th. And then stage 2 is submitted in February. So stage 1 is the needs assessment. And it's deferred maintenance. Pieces that already exist that need upgrading, tweaking, removal, et cetera. Stage 2 is the problem solving, the solutions to those needs that were identified. And, they could be anywhere from, 100,000 to 7 million, who knows? And so it depends on how much we want to dream and how much we want the space to change or stay the same. So nothing's carved in stone, except obviously upgrades to the envelope and, those sorts of maintenance pieces. John, do you want to share anything or?
Yeah, so the stage 2 is once everything's been assessed and we know what the improvements are and realistically what we can fund as well. They will put together what they call the schematic designs for those improvements. And that's a requirement that RIDE has right now. So they'll prepare the schematic designs. Those are submitted in February and get approved by the council at their May meeting. Once they're approved, then they qualify for the housing aid. The housing aid right now is at 35%, but there are incentives that could bring that up maybe another 10%. But along with that stage 2, there's got to be a financial plan to indicate how the district's going to fund any improvements. And that has to be included, and that certainly has to pass muster with RIDE. The plan itself will be more of a 10-year plan. And what we're going to be looking at is the 5-year, which would be those needs that we realistically want to complete over that 5-year period. I can just tell you from my experience, just in North Providence with the building, we started that stage 1 application in June of 2013. We finished the health and safety and the 2 new schools in June of 2019. So it was a 6-year span. So these things take a considerable amount of time. And it's been great because RIDE gave us $50,000 to do this. So we didn't have to front some money. I mean, that money would be reimbursable under the housing aid, but we didn't have to front that money. So And it may be an opportune time with the, the town looking at doing some capital improvements. If they're going to be looking at financing it, why not include what we think the school needs at this point too? So I think it's the right time, I think, to move forward.
Thank you.
Do any more questions? Okay, Super finance report.
Yes, we have, this will be the last one for FY '21. And actually, it's pretty good news. We're looking at a surplus of about 213,000 for the coming year, for last year, I should say. And that's really the result of a couple of things. We've talked about the reduction in students at the high school. So there was a savings there of 123,000. We had some out-of-district savings on our special education tuition, about 65. And in transportation last year, since we're only paying for the days that we use the transportation, we were anticipating a 5% increase in our tuition, in our transportation costs over last year, when in fact we had a savings of almost 96,000. And we had an additional few students at the CTE program. So that purchased other services and tuition was about a $250,000 savings. The good thing is we know we've got a couple of tough budget years coming up with Portsmouth High School change and whatnot. So it's nice to be able to put some money aside. Last year, we started with an accumulated surplus of about 57,000. Add the 213, we should be somewhere around 270,000 as we move into FY '22. It's a little early to get any kind of a feel for FY '22, but I'll start reporting at that on the next meeting. But I don't see any unusual expenses at this point in time. We've had some additional funding for equipment that's come out through the E-rate funding. We were able to pick up, I think, John, it was what, $28,000 to cover some of the items that would be included in the FY '22 budget. So we're looking to kind of soften that up. And there's another round of that money coming out in mid-September. The window is mid-September to mid-October to apply. So we're looking to try to get some additional purchases at that point in time too. So, and again, we have the asset refunds.
They have not released that paperwork yet.
Yeah, that's not going to really impact them. It's not going to be a budget savings, but it certainly will help us to do some of the things that we need to do curriculum wise and maybe some building improvements as well too. So last year, I think, despite everything, was a pretty good year financially, and we're looking forward to a pretty good one in FY '22, and then we'll have a pretty tough budget for '23 and '24. So
We'll be ready for it.
Thank you. Any questions?
So John, as far as the surplus is concerned, is there any limitations on as far as how much we can use of that at any given time? Or is it just basically, is there no limitations on that?
Well, if you recall, I think the budget committee and the town were trying to limit the amount of surplus that the school could have. And for some reason, I think it was somewhere around that 350 range, but what we've done in the past is, the committee can take a look at that at some point, is you can take and set aside some of that, and we did it in capital. So we were able to put aside a fair amount of capital to cover the improvements in the front office, and then leverage that with housing aid plus additional funds from the outside and from the town to get that project done. So, there could be some opportunities to set some of that money aside. But obviously, we have that tuition number for Portsmouth High School we have to deal with going forward. So So there wouldn't be any limitation in terms of being able to spend that money. We haven't budgeted. We have a balanced budget going to FY '22, so we're not using any of that accumulated surplus at all. And that will just continue to obviously stay there. And then it may be something we may want to consider using as we look at, what the tuition impact for Portsmouth will have on the overall budget 23.
Right.
Is there any, are we required to keep a certain percentage of that and not to draw it down to, let's say, 0?
Any districts run it?
You can't, once you draw it down, obviously you need to have a deficit reduction plan approved by the Auditor General when you start getting into prepare if you're going into a deficit situation. So we have to be careful that we have enough of a cushion. I think we really need to maintain. I'd like to retain something between $300,000 and $400,000 in surplus, just in case you have a student that needs to go out of district, so you have those monies available, or you have an unusual expenditure that may come up, like the year we had to replace the boiler or something along those lines. We really need to have some sort of a cushion in there. Certainly not advocating spending that and using that in the FY '23 budget unless we have to. But I think a good target would probably be $300,000 to $400,000 in that accumulated surplus.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McNamee. Committee report. Committee. This down in the action items. School committee liaison report.
It's still Rita as of August.
Yes, and we had a meeting the same night that
Oh, yeah.
they did,
Okay.
so
Right.
don't have much to report here.
Okay.
I can say that I'm going to be attending their meeting next Tuesday, the 14th, in person. So
Oh,
I
terrific.
will report back in October.
Okay.
Thank you.
Town rec committee liaison.
Well, yes, we're still trying to plan a meeting and maybe next Monday.
Okay,
So I'll let you know at the next meeting.
all right. Wellness committee.
That's me too. And we actually did have a meeting
Okay.
after some fits and starts because we understand that because of the nature of our meetings now and having to meet in person, we are a subcommittee of a school committee. So we have to have a certain number of individuals as members to form a quorum in order to meet. And we didn't understand what the number was because our membership was sort of generally
Fluid.
stated.
Fluid.
Yes, it was sort of stated that we need members from this group, and this group. So we have all those members, but just how many people would make a quorum? So through all that dialogue, we finally had a meeting on August 31st and spent a lot of time discussing who's going to be a member and who's not. So I think we do have it pinned down from some
Yes.
research with the Secretary of State's office.
Yep.
With Lori and Mariah doing some research. So we'll pull that together at the next meeting and know who's who and when we have a quorum. But essentially, the other things we talked about were, there's another Healthy Kids newsletter out this month. So we'll dive into that for our next meeting in October. The Rhode Island Healthy Kid, not Rhode Island, Rides Health Ed framework being revised. And so there's going to be a big promotion. You're going to hear lots more about this when they roll it out in maybe October timeframe, how it's changing the framework of how we understand and implement health education in Rhode Island schools. So lots more to come on that, but that's a real exciting project. And that's what I have.
Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have public input now. Anyone is welcome to speak now from the audience or at any time, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Does anyone have anything to say now? Any questions?
I see Patrick McHugh in the audience. Oh, yeah, he is. Maybe he knows about the rec committee meeting.
Okay, action items. 8.1, consider, discuss, and vote to retire the exit interview.
Patrick,
Let's have a hand. Let's know something.
All right.
Yes.
we want to let him talk?
Sure.
To be able to. I didn't mean to do that. All right, he's,
Patrick, are you there?
Well, since you called my name,
Can you give your full name and address, please?
Patrick McHugh, 231 John Dyer Road.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
He's gonna give us a history lesson.
I could give you a history lesson if you wanted, but I don't want
Ooh, fix it right up.
to. There'll be a rec meeting Monday, next Monday
Okay.
at 7 o'clock. There's your answer to that, Rita.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick.
Doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Okay, 8.1, consider, discuss, and vote to retire the exit interview policy. Carolyn, do you care to just give us a quick recap on this exit interview policy and why we're going to retire it?
Yes. Last summer, the policy committee undertook a major task and revamped all of the HR policies to line up with the new educational statute. In doing so, they incorporated exit interviews into the human capital management policy, thereby overriding, superseding, if you will, the existing exit interview policy. They now contradict each other slightly, so we need to go with the most current wording in the new policy, the newly revised policy, and retire the old one.
Super. So if no one has any questions about that, I'd take a motion to vote to retire the exit interview policy.
Motion.
Second.
Favor by roll call.
Leon,
Aye.
Audie,
Aye.
Hannah Air,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All in favor, thank you. 8.2, consider, discuss, and vote to approve to submit the necessity of school instruction stage 1, the review to Rhode Island Department of Education School Building Authority. A mouthful.
Thank you. Okay.
This would essentially give superintendent permission to move forward with stage 1, which would go to the town council for review and questions and start this slow process.
Slow, long process.
So
So
moved.
moved. I was gonna say, I want to read.
Super. Vote by roll call.
Leon,
Aye.
Travis Audie,
Aye.
Hannah Air,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
8.3. Consider, discuss, and vote to adopt the employee dress code policy. This is a second read. Covered this at the last meeting. We're essentially just adding the portion from the student dress code into the employee dress code about wearing masks.
Taking them uniform, right? Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Vote by roll call, please.
Leon,
Aye.
Travis Audie,
Aye.
Hannah Air,
Aye.
Rita Kennahan,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Right, all in favor. 8.4. Consider, discuss, and vote to approve any requests for information from administration and or legal counsel. Way of roll call. This is when anyone has any requests for our legal counsel or superintendent, any of our administration or finance? Hannah?
I just would like to ask that, you had talked about, I believe it was in the August meeting when we discussed, survey works. We were going to have another discussion, I believe this month, but it wasn't on the agenda. So if we could have a revisit to that discussion next month, maybe just with some updates or goals from the administration, I'd appreciate that.
October. Anyone else?
As far as our minutes that we approve every month.
Yep.
Is it possible to attach that to, so we can read that before we approve them?
Attach it to the agenda?
Yes.
Could be.
They should be.
That's what I'm looking at. Do I not? Or am I looking at wrong? Usually it's like a little
Yeah.
thing here.
If it's not on our agenda, they are all on the previous meetings,
Right.
on board docs too.
Good.
It should be attached as a link to the agenda item.
Yeah.
When you click that right here,
Mhm.
and then it goes here, view the minutes for August 18th.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, it's confusing.
I'm not in the right place. All right, anyone else? Anything? All right,
Well, I do have a question for HR regarding some of the open positions. For the athletic teams, is that do they have to be teaching within the facility, or can they be volunteers from the community?
Yes, per the contract with Little Compton Teachers Association, we post every position internally or for their collective for 2 weeks prior to then posting it externally.
And this includes like the coaching for soccer and cross country?
This includes the, yeah,
Okay.
postings such as coaching. Yeah.
And being on the committee, are we disqualified from participating in such thing? Just trying to gauge this for the long term, because if there's
They
coaching,
are paid positions, so.
Not allowed to.
if someone was to not be, so to say, to waive the,
Hold on.
There he is. Ah.
Yeah, here's the deal. You can't be appointed to a paid position with the school department.
Right.
I would tell you, while I think, the idea of volunteering to be a coach is extremely well intended, but I have had this happen in other districts and it ends up being a big problem when somebody is unhappy with the person who is the coach and it arises out of a coaching issue and it ends up in the lap of the school committee because of something that happened at a soccer game. So, while you can do it, I have had problems in another district by somebody very well intended, but it did not work out.
this is why we ask, so John can.
He just,
Beautiful.
he just appears.
All right. And then my note.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Ryan.
So before I entertain a motion to enter into executive session, does anyone in the public have any questions? Now's your chance before we have to go into executive session. No, okay. I consider a vote to enter into executive session under RIGL section 4246 5A2 by way of roll call.
Second.
Okay, look over here. Thanks.
Leon,
Aye.
Kawasaki,
Aye.
Linnea,
Aye.
Hennigan.
Aye.
Yeah. Go for it. Welcome back to open session. I'm gonna notify everyone that there were no votes taken in executive session. And I would entertain a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
You have a motion.
Second.
Vote by roll call, please.
Pollyanna,
Aye.
Travasati,
Aye.
Hannah,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
Thank you. And I would consider a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
Thank you.
Feel that on the last one.
Vote by roll call, please.
Pollyanna,
Aye.
Travasati,
Aye.
Hannah,
Aye.
Peter Cunningham,
Aye.
Mike Rocha.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.